What is up, everybody? Welcome back for the first time in a long time to the Best Self Blueprint. For those of you who have tuned in before, you already know the mission of this podcast is either by myself or with a guest, present you with the knowledge, the insights, and the experiences that hopefully will help you move that dial towards becoming the best, most authentic version of you, whatever that means to you. Now, there are a lot of things to go through. It, like I said, has been quite some time. Quite frankly, this is not my first attempt at recording this one, but there's a lot to go through, and I want to start with talking about why it is that it's been so long since I've recorded a podcast. Before I get into that, you know what? We're going to give the YouTube spiel. For those of you who aren't subscribed, go ahead and click the subscribe button. If you like this video, go ahead and click the like button. If there's anything that I talk about later after kind of the boring stuff, just catching you up, I'll get into some lessons, some tips, things like that. If you find value, go ahead and like it. And if you think there's someone else who would find value, go ahead and share it. All right, YouTube spiel done. Let's get into it. So why did I take a break from the podcast? I believe the last podcast I uploaded was a couple months ago at this point. Now, for those of you who do follow me, who are in my orbit in real life, the words Project Ultra have been ringing out of my mouth for so long now, and for so frequently. So frequently that it has consumed me. Outside of, I have my personal training clients, I have my business tasks, and I have my life stuff. So making sure that I'm still exercising and meditating and hanging out with friends and family. But outside of those very foundational life pieces, everything has been Project Ultra for me. More specifically, the first event in Project Ultra, Sparks 100. So that is why I have not done the podcast. Is the podcast, as fun as it is, and I absolutely love doing the podcast. I love talking with the guests. I love being able to find interesting people, pick their brain, ask questions that I'm curious about or that hopefully will jar something loose in you, the listener. I absolutely love it. But I had to be honest with myself, and this is not the top of the pecking order for me. And anything that isn't at the top, meaning absolutely essential to maintain, it kind of fell to the wayside. And the only things to me that are essential to maintain are my daily habits that allow me to just enjoy life, my community, my friends, my family, and then my work. So those were the three things really that stayed. Everything else is kind of taken a hit. I haven't done a ton of hobbies. I've gone to social events where we've done fun stuff, but I usually will make a lot more time to go try new things and have fun experiences. And a lot of things fell at the wayside. So the podcast was one of them. That is why you haven't seen an episode in a while, is because instead of doing podcast episodes, I've been filming video journals for Project Ultra and using the podcast time that I had in my schedule to shift over to planning the event and getting ready as an athlete and all that stuff that I'll get into in a second. So I do owe everyone who is a regular listener an apology. I kind of left you in the dark for a couple months. Shouldn't have done that, so I do apologize. I understand there are people who have gotten a lot of value from the guests that I've had on. People have hired the guests that I've had on for the things that they're experts in. And so I am sorry. I didn't handle that well. I just kind of went dark. But I promise you there will be plenty more guests coming down the line. This to me is just a lifelong passion project. Some artists like to paint their whole lives and they'll do it sporadically. Some amateur musicians like to songwrite or play for their life periodically. And this to me is something that, at least at this chapter, it's something that I do as a passion project for fun. Had to set it down for a while. So thank you everybody for just rocking with me and being patient. I appreciate it. So one more kind of housekeeping thing before I get into the meat and potatoes of it all is Project Ultra updates. everything pretty much is ready to rock for the Sparks 100 event. It is May 12th and 13th. I'll give you the quick little elevator pitch. I want everybody to come to it. It is such, obviously, I have a bias because it's my event, but genuinely, it's just such a cool thing. It's a community thing. Anyone can participate. You can walk, run any distance you want. It is a very low barrier to entry. It's a minimum $25 donation. And with that $25 donation, or more, is always appreciated. There are 5 sign-up times from 8 a.m. May 12th to noon on May 13th. You can do 1, you can do 2, you can do all of them. I guess you can do 3 or 4 as well. It's a blank canvas, which I just nerd out. Like it gets me so excited to just like be able to offer a type of event where it's not just you have to start at this time, you have to go this far, but it's like, hey, you chip in $25 to this collective fundraising effort, and it's a blank canvas for you to create your own race, challenge, event, outing, whatever you want to make of it. So I find that really freaking cool. But May 12th and 13th at Neshota Park, $25, 5 time slots. You pick the distance. We have the volunteers almost all set and ready to rock. EMT is being taken care of. Liabilities taken care of. Permits are taken care of. My crew's taken care of. Sponsorship spots have been filled. I'm so grateful for all of the people who have been, quite frankly, crucial to making this thing happen. I don't know a way that I would have gotten this all done if I didn't have so many generous, amazing, kind souls in my life who have helped me so much along the way. So thank you. You know who you are. So it's good. It's ready. We're rocking and rolling. So that being said, it's rocking and rolling on the race director side. On the athlete side, it's a very different story, which we're going to get into in a second. But that's the Sparks 100. Please come on out. If you can't make it, please consider at least donating. I'm going to have links to the event page in the description. I'm going to have a link to the fundraising page in the description. Go ahead and sign up. All you need to know is your name, the distance you want to cover, the donation spot you want to, or the donation amount you want to fill, and then the time slot or slots that you want to participate in. There's the spiel. All right. So, and then the second event, which is unfortunately still not finalized. I don't know how elaborate I want to get with it, just knowing everything that has gone into the production of this event and just knowing, I don't know what that's going to look like. I think right now it's going to be a very select few people will have, we'll have maybe 5 to 10 spots for the swim. So just let me rewind. The second event is 5 triathlons in 5 days. The first 4 days I will be doing solo. Those will not be part of the community charity event. That's just part of the athletic endeavor. The final day, a full distance triathlon, will be available to participate in. So the swim, very limited spots, higher ticket entry. Again, that ticket price is 100% donations. I do not take any profits from this, and I find sponsors to cover the cost. So all donations. So high ticket, limited spot swimming, mid ticket, more open biking, and then low ticket, completely open running. The swimming will probably try to get people who want to do the whole thing. Biking and running, different story. You can bike as far as you want, run as far as you want. You can do all 3, but that one is still a lot of things to be decided. But just be ready for that when it comes out. Whew. All right. That was a lot. Let's get into the actually interesting part of this, which is all of the lessons and the journey that I've been through in the preparation of this, kind of everything leading up to me sitting here right now, 5 weeks out. Story time. So this whole project started with really the beginning of my self-development journey. So when I was in a dark place, I was starting to get into the world of self-development, and a big foundational component was I was given the advice to write out all of the limiting beliefs I could think of. Once I had them all written out, it was on me to figure out, okay, what's one limiting belief that I could try to undo and just shatter that limiting belief. Now, the same weekend I wrote out these limiting beliefs, I went and did a 5K fun run, so the limiting belief I'm talking about is I wrote out, I'm not a distance runner. I can't do it. I was a sprinter in high school track. 400 meters was long distance to me. A mile, that's crazy. A 5K is just, why would you even do it? That was my mindset. I don't even know why I ended up doing this 5K fun run now that I think about it, but me and a buddy of mine went and did this 5K fun run, and I so vividly remember being on this like very low grade incline, just thinking about how difficult this is, how much it sucks, confirming, like falling into that limiting belief trap at that event right after I wrote this limiting belief. And a little girl, best guess 8 years old, maybe 9, something around there, just dusts me. I mean, she had a smile on her face and she was having a blast, and she had a pace that made me look like I was barely moving. I mean, I probably was barely moving. And that right there, just seeing that for some reason poured tons of gasoline on the fire that was like, I need to go after this. Like, that is ridiculous. I have a competitive side in me that seeing a little girl as like a older teenager, that was just like, all right, that's it. There's no way. I'm not letting that happen again. I need to go after this. And so over the last 6 years, I've slowly gotten beat up by different races, obstacle course racing, endurance racing, different challenges, different workouts, things that continued to stack and branch out into this beautiful tree that has accumulated into my journey of shattering this limiting belief. And about 2 or 3 years into it, so a good few years ago, I started thinking about like, okay, I'm on this journey, I'm shattering this limiting belief, but what's the ultimate goal? What is so big, so extraordinary, so remarkable that it is undeniable that I have shattered the limiting belief that I'm not a distance runner? And so I started kind of asking around, looking at different people in the endurance space, what is considered top tier, elite. And this could be wrong, but from what I've seen, the crowned jewels of ultra endurance, like one kind of what I thought of as like, once you do this, even people who run or people who are participating in endurance athletics look at that and be like, that's impressive. Full distance triathlon, a lot of people consider that an Ironman and a 100-mile race or a 100-mile run. So in my head, I started kind of cooking up this idea of like, well, would I want to do the Ironman or would I want to do the 100-miler? Well, what would it look like to do both? Well, what would it look like to do both in the same year? Well, what would it look to do both in the same year and make it more difficult? And I continued to kind of stack and clarify and construct this idea of what is the ultimate, the craziest thing that I think of when I think of seeing the words, I'm not a distance runner in my head, and just obliterating it, disintegrating it, making it so that it is laughable that I ever once did that. Fast forward a little bit to last year, I did 3 events that really confirmed it's time to pull the Babe Ruth, point the home run bat, shoot my shot. I did the 4x4x48. So that is 4 miles, 4-mile run every 4 hours for 48 hours straight. Not only was I able to do it, I added a mile onto the last 2 runs to do a clean 50. That is not to brag, because the year before that I did the same event and I got just absolutely rocked by it. So I felt really good in that space. Then I went and did a 24-hour workout. So this was an every hour on the hour circuit that took about 40 to 45 minutes to get through. So you do a 45-minute workout every hour for 24 hours straight. That was brutal, and it was a full body assault, but I was able to do it. And not only was I able to do it, but I like to think that I got through that very mentally strong. And there's a whole podcast episode with the two guys that completed it with me where we talk about that. And they gave me, the credit of, yeah, I seemed to kind of turn it up at the end. So that was confirming evidence. And then I did a 24-hour solo race. And although there were very difficult parts, I managed to go, so it was a 3.05 mile course, and I did 19 laps. I believe that's just about 58 miles, 57.95 or something like that. So I managed to crank out 58 miles, which is 4 miles short or 1 lap short of 100K, which essentially it's usually the step before a 100-miler that people go for. And at the end of that race, I was like, although the time ran out, I had more to give. I could have kept going. It would have sucked, but I could have done it. So I had 24-hour race, 24-hour workout, 4x4x48. I had these downloads that happened in each of those that just, it gave me that knowing it's time to shoot your shot. It's time to go for that big kahuna, that white whale, that end-all be-all event. And so that's when I really started to write on paper, like, okay, completely tangibly, what does this look like? And to think about this whole journey and to think about the fact that it's been years dreaming up, over 10 months of planning and brainstorming and getting everything ready and getting all of the details figured out and all of the stuff put into this to know that I'm on the precipice of part 1 of a 2-part highlight of my life. It's pretty freaking cool. And it's something, oh my gosh, I can't urge all of you enough. Whatever it is you're passionate about, whatever dreams you have, although I haven't actually done the race yet, I already can tell you this is so worth it. Just everything that I've learned throughout this process about myself, about different aspects of putting together a charity event, putting together a community event, putting together a training program that is absolutely absurdly difficult in terms of like executing well on it. And then you add into that, let's see if I will fall out of my chair trying to do this. You add into that there are a lot of things that didn't go according to plan. So I'm going to now get into just some of the lessons, some of the things I've learned. But that's the first thing is like, if you have a dream, go for it. Even if you fail, even if you fall short, you know now, and you've grown so much and you've learned so much about yourself, about the process, about the unknowns. And it's such a beautiful journey. It is life, the highs, the lows, the trials, the tribulations, the beauty, the presence. It's a microcosm of that. It's life condensed into a project, a single pursuit. And that is the first lesson. And the first tip is, no matter what it is you love to do, go big. Do something that you will remember forever, that will leave no doubt that you went so big. And it's not, yes, like this project is for the charity, it is for the community, but like this isn't to impress anybody. This is for me. This is for my life and my journey and my growth and just my discovery of what I can do with this gift of life, and knowing how much this has done for me, how much positivity has come from this. That's the first tip, is just go for it. Whatever idea you have, whatever thing you've wanted to do, send it. Go all in. Push the chips in and just figure it out along the way. Thing number 2, you just saw the boot on my foot. Not everything is going to go according to plan, and there is so much beauty in that. So when I started, I had a month by month detailed like training program, nutrition program, recovery program, sleep program. All of this stuff was like meticulously planned out to the most minute detail. And for a few months in the honeymoon phase, crushed it. Training was on point. Nutrition was on point. Sleep was on point. Everything outside of it that would have possibly inhibited it was on point. And then life happens. In the course of 10 months, I was so naive to believe that I could actually choreograph the perfect executable process that would have no alterations. And that is truly what I believe, that if I just willed it, it would happen. Life has a funny way of teaching you lessons. So here's everything that didn't go according to plan. I won't get into all of it, but I developed something called metatarsalgia in both of my feet. That essentially is a big fancy doctor word for I had pain and inflammation in both of my feet. After 2 weeks off of running, my right foot felt amazing. I got back into my introductory runs the following week. Left foot, something didn't feel right, got it checked out. Stress fracture. I found that out 8 weeks before a 100-miler, and it's 4 to 6 weeks to recover. When you find out you can't run to prep for a 100-mile running race, it is not ideal. And so it's figuring out like, okay, what do you need to be able to do to execute? So I'm just going to run you through kind of my thought process. I need to be extremely cardiovascularly fit in order to endure the distance covered. I need to have enough muscle and strength in my legs to be able to endure the vertical. So like the downhills, the uphills, all of that. I need to have the mental toughness to be able to get through all of the mental and emotional hurdles that will come up. I need to have the right equipment. I need to there are X number of things that you need going in. And if I can't run, there are plenty of other ways to get cardio fit, to get my endurance to an elite level. There are ways to make sure that my mobility stays there in my hips, my knees, my ankles, my feet, to make sure that the strength I need is there, to make sure that the mental fortitude I need is there, to make sure like all of the ingredients are there. And then once the boot is off, I get the running mechanics back and I bake it into one nice little finished product that's ready to go for the race. Not everything is going to go according to plan. Outside of just the training, I had multiple personal things happen, big things that, quite frankly, threw me off for weeks. As a coach who specializes in high performance, stress reduction, behavior change, mindfulness meditation, health practices, personal training, it is laughable when you realize how vulnerable you are to life. It doesn't matter how much of an expert I become in these subjects. Life has the infinite advantage in throwing things at you that will break you, because that's just what you need. And I say you, and I'm talking about me in my life and my experiences recently. And I had things that after years of intentional, consistent self-development work popped up and just brought me back to my old self in an instant and kept me there. And it was almost like I was frozen and unable to even attempt to access all of the expertise I had, because I needed to just sit and process the emotional tidal wave that smacked me in like multiple pieces. Things aren't always going to go the way you expect them to. It was my personal life. It was my feet. And then that was a domino effect into sleep consistency and stress management and nutritional choices and all of these things. And so it's understanding that things, not only will things not go like exactly how you want them to, but in my mind, like, what's so fulfilling if you set a goal, you know exactly everything that's going to happen, you know exactly how it's going to be when you execute, and then you get there. I guess to me, that just doesn't sound nearly as fulfilling as knowing that there were unknowns, knowing that there were extra challenges, extra surprises, extra things that pop up to make the story more juicy, to make the execution and the accomplishment that much more extraordinary, remarkable, amazing. It adds to it. It adds such beauty through the pain and the suffering and the turbulence that if you're in that pursuit, again, you, whoever's listening, if you're in the pursuit, about to start the pursuit, you kind of have an idea, or you're like, hey, maybe now this is going to make me think of an idea. Just remember, like, when things get tough, and this took me weeks to like sort through in my own emotional clutter. Hopefully this will save you the time. Like, just remember, if you only experienced happy and positivity and joy and the light, you wouldn't even know you're there because there's nothing to contrast it. There's nothing to differentiate between the light and the dark. And beyond that, the dark, it just grants you so much growth at such an accelerated rate. And so just remember that. Like, remember to have grace in the downtimes, in the tribulations, in the extra surprises that, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, socially, throw you off your game and put you into that darker space. Don't be like me, learn from my mistakes and don't let it steamroll you and just keep you flattened, but allow yourself to experience the emotions. Don't suppress them. Be with them, be present. And I say that because that is what I ended up doing that worked. I allowed myself to be sad, to be mad, to be frustrated, to be disappointed, to be down, and really feel it and sit with it, and then be grateful for the lesson and to think about, yes, it's okay that I'm sad, but also, what's the lesson? What's the power? What's the reason? And at least I've found in my life that when you look hard enough, you can find a reason for something. And there were reasons for these things popping up. And so that's my second tip is it won't go according to plan. As like the bigger the goal and the longer timeline it will take to get ready, the less likely it is that everything's going to go according to plan. And look for the beauty in it. Sit with it, be present with it. Don't try to just brush it off like it's nothing. And then understand that that's okay and keep rolling and keep progressing. What else do we have? Remember to have fun. This is something, as I get closer, I think I'm entering the eye of the hurricane, in that there was the hustle and bustle and frantic energy around ensuring that everything is set up so that not only me, but the other people participating, volunteering, all of that, have a good experience. But at the end of the day, not just from the run, not just from the event, but from the entire process that is Project Ultra, I want to know, looking back, that I can smile, that I can be happy about how I did it, why I did it, what I did in order to execute on it. And I think that's an important lesson to take away in a pursuit is I've leveraged visualization very consistently throughout this process in terms of leading up the month before. So basically where I'm at now. Start to get extra present, and I've been doing that. Start to really immerse myself in the experience of the athlete, of the race director, of the fundraiser host, of all of this stuff. A week out, what do I want that to look like? What might it look like if it doesn't go the way I want it to? The day before the race, the night before the race, the morning before the race, the start of the race, throughout the race, the end of the race, after the race. And to me, after the race, the most important part is that I look back with fulfillment, with joy, with gratitude, with humility, but also being proud of what I accomplished and who I became throughout the pursuit of the accomplishment. So those are probably right now the most profound lessons in the build-up. And so I want to kind of challenge you, whoever is listening, to come up with a limiting belief, something that has held you back maybe. Doesn't have to be in health and fitness, doesn't have to be a big physical pursuit like running 100 miles. It could be in your finances. It could be in a relationship. It could be spiritually with your God, with the universe, whatever your belief is around that. It could be in terms of your career. It could be in terms of a hobby. It could be of running 100 miles. It could be travel. It could be any area of your life, your experience. Think of a limiting belief. And in thinking of that limiting belief, think of a way that you can start the journey of starting to break down and eventually disintegrate that limiting belief. And hopefully these lessons will provide value to you. But what's after Project Ultra? That's kind of the final thing I wanted to talk about. And this is hilarious to me because I've had a decent amount of people challenge what I've said. So I've kind of alluded to it a little bit throughout this, but this is the victory lap to me. This is the final frontier of my shattering of that initial limiting belief. And I mean, this isn't to prove anything to anyone. This isn't to flex on people and be like, oh, puff my chest, oh, I did this. This has really been a journey for me. And I've fallen into the ego trap at times of wanting to flex on people and do these crazy things. But there's such a sense of calm around it now. And I think that's because I know this is the foreseeable end to my ultra endurance journey in life. There are so many other things. I truly don't consider myself a runner. I consider myself an athlete. And I consider myself someone who is just an avid lover of kinesiology and movement and how much gamification can be had from the physical experience of life. And I don't just want to experience that in ultra endurance. I want to experience that in strength and mobility and mentally strong challenges like the free solo that I did. And so what's next is a limiting belief that's popped up as I've evolved as an endurance athlete. I have made self-deprecating jokes around being the big guy, the strong guy, like all of this stuff. And I noticed that I think the reason for the humor around it and the comedy around it is because now there's a limiting belief around that. And it's time that I address it. And so after Project Ultra ends the end of August. So I'll probably take a couple months to just really chill and just have fun with exercise and completely wipe the slate clean. And then I think it's about shattering that limiting belief of getting strong and building muscle mass and turning into that version of myself as an athlete and seeing how elite I can take that. Because strength and power is a young man's game, and that's something to think about if I want to master each of these elements of the physical experience. That one has a bit more of a clock than some of the others. So that's part one, is getting maybe into more bodybuilding style things, developing my strength training. But then the second half is tied to a wide variety of other things, with my speaking career starting to take off more and more. I want to travel more for that. And so part of my athletic pursuit is I want to do, I believe it's called extreme polyathletics, which extreme sports is like big wall climbing, big wave surfing, skydiving, the extreme sports. So I want to create an extreme polyathletic bucket list that consists of me traveling around the country, maybe even around the world, and doing, 1,000-foot cliff face climbs and big wave surfs and volcano boarding, because I found out that's a thing. And I think these two will go hand in hand. Maybe not a direct one-to-one correlation, but I think I can do both in a way that allows me to have fun in the pursuit of both. Maybe not, we'll find out, but that's what's next. Because again, I want to have learned the lessons from an elite ultra endurance athletic standpoint. I want to learn the lessons from an elite extreme athletic standpoint, from an elite strength and power standpoint, from an elite mobility standpoint, from all of these things. And so that's really what's next. So I wanted to take some time, chat about some of this stuff, let you all know that I am still going to do the podcast. I'm not just done with it, but I needed to unplug from that so I could really make the most of this amazing experience of Project Ultra. There may not be a ton of podcasts coming out from now until August. I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that so that you don't think that from here it's going to be every week like it was before. From now until August, it'll be if I feel I have the time and I have someone who's willing to sit down with me and chat, I will do it. I will upload it then and there. But unless that's the case, probably September will be the launch of kind of the new and improved Best Self Blueprint. Crazy guests. We're going to start kind of branching out and doing other content on Best Self Studios and see where that takes us. But I think I'll wrap it up there. There was a lot of talking. I need to get some water, eat something, and then I need to go train because I'm doing 100 miles in 5 weeks. So thank you everybody for tuning in. If you have questions, throw them in the comments. If you liked this video, you think it's cool, the journey that I've been on, you took lessons, you took some type of inspiration or education or something from this, go ahead and click that like button. If you are excited about what's coming down the pipeline in September and you're not subscribed, subscribe. And I'll leave it with that. Thank you, everybody, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.